One of the most thought-provoking books that I finished recently has got to be Yuval Noah Harari's book, Homo Deus. Now, this is a follow-up book to his first book, Sapiens, in which he looked at the entirety of human history, really to answer the question of where we came from and how we got to where we are today. And it really is such a grand perspective. He looks at all the way from the beginnings of the agricultural revolution all the way to modern times. And I think anyone has really presented such a beautiful account of it. And if you're considering that book, it is quite thick. I would recommend potentially the recently released illustrated edition, which presents it in the format of graphic novel, making it more entertaining and also insightful at the same time. Now, Homo Deus is really his attempt at answering the question of what's next for humanity. Really this question of what's in store for us. And the title, if you were to translate it from Latin, Homo Deus actually means human gods, and that really summarizes his main thesis. This idea that because of our advancements in both technology and sciences, we've actually now moved towards the realm of godhood. And the reason why he's suggesting that humans are becoming gods is because if you consider all the developments in our progression in both science and technology, we've been able to really control the variables that affect our mortality and really ensure our own survival. You think about, for example, the main threats to survival and mortality, at least collectively, war, for example, violence, famine, and pandemics, for example. These things, although they still exist, they don't affect us as much as they used to if you were to really look at the statistics of mortality. And the reason being that we're now able to handle them in a more efficient way because we're so much more advanced than we were in the past. And also at the same time, our advancements in science have allowed us to really control and very efficiently manage our human condition, our life expectancies. And now beyond that, we're moving towards really research into how we can extend our mortality, our lifespans. Companies like Google's Calico is doing exactly that. So when you think about the mythological conceptions of deities and gods and their traits and their abilities, we actually possess many of that right now because of our advancements. And that is really this idea that we are moving towards this concept of at least how we conceptualize God in terms of what we can do and how we can actually control very much of our lives. But at the same time, the other very fascinating point that's being brought up overall by the book is this idea of humanism. Although we're now possessing these godlike abilities, there's this question of humanism. You see, throughout human history, religion has really been putting forth this idea that as humans we're very special, very unique. There's something that's very special because of our intelligence and really what defines us. But as we have advancements, especially in the area of information technology, we now are seeing life much more from the lens of data. We can break many things down into data, even humans and human interactions into data. And as with the rise of the Internet of Things and how we're datafying everything, we start to actually reduce everything into this sort of data set sort of view and fit everything into an algorithm. And that really makes us question our uniqueness. So humanism is actually being replaced by dataism. And of course, the ones that are in control of these algorithms, let's say the tech companies, they are poised to really become at the apex of this godhood, really the gods in the future, really. But the point being this, the idea is, although we're getting so much more control over our lives, the main threat really in this sort of human gods sort of scenario of the future is really this idea of meaning. We start to really lose the idea of the conceptual essence of what makes us human as we start to fit everything into an algorithm. So I think that paints a very unique and sort of bleak vision of the future. Although we are now able to really improve our human condition, the thing that's really at threat isn't the material, but really the conceptual, sort of the essence of what makes us who we are, our self-perception. And as we reduce everything down into data and into everything that sort of is intertwined with the technology, we start to lose really this idea of who we are. And I think that's a very beautiful thing that's being presented by Homo Deus. And Yuval's really painted a very interesting picture there with his book. Now, I highly recommend it because compared to other authors, he's not only looking at the technological developments, but really the question of also conceptually where we're heading. And I think he is also quite skeptical and pessimistic of it. And I think we should be. Because although Yuval's writing from many years ago, many of his foresights are actually quite true. That is the current development that is currently happening. And it really does raise a lot of questions for us, and it really does provoke a lot of sort of contemplation in terms of really whether we're heading towards the right direction, whether it really is good for humans to become gods in that sense.